Welcome back to the Wood and Sticks program here, recording from the Aquarius Home Services studio on location here in Calgary, Alberta. A very chilly edition of the show this week. It is, I know we're up in Celsius land north of the border, but roughly it's like 5 degrees up here. I went for a walk this morning, and I'm sure it's the same back home. You know, it's that time of year. We're into December. We had a great fall. It stayed warm a lot longer than it normally does in the Midwest. And here in Canada, they've talked about a very mild fall as well, but now winter is here. And having a lot of fun right now with this hockey team as the Minnesota Wild come off a win. We're recording on a Wednesday. This was last night. They beat the Oilers on Tuesday. An amazing performance again by this young goaltender, Jesper Wallstedt. He's just 23 years old. He's got 4 shutouts in his last 6 starts. He's the reigning NHL Rookie of the Month for November. And he's really been a big part of a turnaround that took the Wild from a 3-6-3 start in October, where they were well out of the playoff position in the Western Conference. And we heard all about, the Thanksgiving break and how they mathematically were going to have a hard time getting in the top 8 in time for that holiday. And they've gone on this remarkable run, and 12-1-2, and not only a solid spot in the top 8, but really in the best division out there, contending and trying to keep up with the hottest team in the league, the Avalanche, who they beat last week. It's been pretty remarkable. They're still not healthy. They're still without their first-line center in Marco Rossi. They didn't have Danila Yurov last night. They've battled through injuries here. Zuccarello missed all of that first month of October and a week of November. He's made an incredible difference since he's come back. And the team defense and the special teams, it's just been an overhaul, and they look a lot more like the team we saw last year, where they were comfortable on the road. And when they step up in competition and play the elite teams in this league, they find ways to not only be competitive, but win games. They seem to be that team. And so it's exciting right now because as they get back to full health, Rossi's back skating on his own with Andy Ness, the strength and skill coach for Minnesota on the ice. He takes care of all the individual skating while the team is traveling, and Rossi is working his way back into a position where he can join the team for some practices, maybe when they get back from this road trip, which is a long 9-day, 4-city trip. And, beating the Oilers last night, I think, continues to validate that this is legit and this is who they're going to be. So we're very excited out here on the road covering this team. And as you're digesting this podcast, we're getting ready to cover a game in Calgary. It'll be on to Vancouver for the Canucks on Saturday, and we'll close out this road trip on Monday over in Seattle. Late night hockey for you. Hope you can tune in. It's been a ton of fun to cover this team, and let's keep that train rolling. And today on the show, we're going to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Wild. We'll get some strong opinions from one of our very favorites, Pat Micheletti. He's been on the show numerous times. I just went through a horrific health scare, and so I wanted to make sure we gave our listeners a chance to hear it right from Pat, what he went through, where he's at, and what it means for the future. And so we'll get an update right off the hop here from Mick on that, and we'll dive into his great hockey mind on the Minnesota Wild, but more specifically where he kind of does most of his work these days, the college hockey landscape, which for me, I follow from afar, but he's my inside guy, and he's connected to all these coaches and players. And I think you're really going to enjoy the conversation today with Mick Tocchet. If you want to follow him on social media, he's a fantastic follow at Pat Mick, Patmick 2626, at Pat Mick 2626 on Twitter, X, whatever you call that damn thing these days. I reminded myself doing a little research for the show of just his numbers playing at the University of Minnesota. He had 176 points in his last 2 years for the U. He played from 82 to 86 in the maroon and gold. Just a remarkable player. When you go watch the Gophers play, he's on the mural. And, by the way, he's on the mural with some of the greatest players in the history of the sport. And at the college level, you're talking about the Mayasiches, the Mariucci's, the Neil Brottons, Herb Brooks, the Lou Nannies. This is who we're talking to today. Can't wait to have Pat Micheletti be a part of the show again here from Calgary. Before we get to Mick Tocchet, though, I want to thank the people that make this show possible, our partners here at the Talk North Podcast Network. We'll start with my dear friend John Schweitz and Minnesota Masonic Charities. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz. Also got to thank the folks over at Onyx Fish and Onyx Maps.
Have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that? Or maybe you need to know exactly where a property line runs. That's where Onyx Hunt comes in. And it's not just for hunters. There are folks using Onyx for their jobs every day throughout the country. From farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating rough terrain, to construction workers needing to know who owns what property, this app offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership maps, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, Onyx Hunt is the tool for the job. Try it free for 7 days. Download Onyx Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit onyxmaps.com/hunt to get started.
My dear friend Mark Rosen, can't say enough good things. If it's good enough for Rosie, it's good enough for you. The folks over at StretchLab.
Hey, Mark Rosen here for StretchLab. I had my introductory first stretch when I was visiting my relatives in New Jersey. I went to the local StretchLab there for my 50-minute session. I felt so good afterwards. So when I came back, I immediately called that StretchLab in Eden Prairie. They have locations all over the Twin Cities where my nephew first signed up. I've been hooked ever since. There are locations I mentioned throughout the Twin City area, but I stuck with my Tuesday morning appointment with Jason to get my 50-minute stretch in as part of my schedule. It's like a meditation session. He stretches out my legs, my hips, my back, my neck, my traps, all of it, and I take some deep breaths, and I feel like a new man every single time I leave. My nephew's in his late 20s. I'm a little bit older, but it doesn't matter. Stretching is so important in our daily routine. Having an expert do the work is the only way to go. My advice, give StretchLab a chance to improve your overall health. Check out a location near you.
And finally, our dear friends over at Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. We're back with Pat Micheletti on college hockey and the state of the Minnesota Wild. Welcome back to Wooden Sticks, a recording from the Aquarius Home Services studio. That studio is on the road from downtown Calgary today as we record on this Wednesday. So happy to have my dear friend Pat Micheletti on the show. Mick Tockett, it's great to have you on.
It's great to be on with you. I've been waiting for this for a long time. You know, the last time we talked, I think was the end of summer, and
Yep.
Here we are. So it's great.
Yeah, we're in the heart of it, and because both of our schedules kind of take us in different directions. You're, I mean, a ton of college hockey. I'm traveling a lot with the Wild. I missed out on a terrific health scare that you had. And I think for our listening audience, hockey-centric, Minnesota mainly, in this market, I would love to at least give them an update on what you went through and where things are at right now, because there was a big void in our hockey media world, and I'm so glad you're on the road to recovery.
Yeah, I am, KG, and thanks for asking. And I'll try to put it in a nutshell. It kind of all started at the end of August, and I actually was down getting my annual physical for my kidney. And, you know, when you go to a place like that, you know, there's a lot of people and you're susceptible to, you know, some things. And apparently I caught some virus. And then that virus triggered my neurological parts of my body, you know, my nerves and so, you know, as we went into September, I started. My walking was a little bit more harder to do, and then we got to October, and the first week in October, and I started to use a cane. I was doing, I worked 2 Gopher games, and they said, "What are you doing with the cane?" I said, "Well, I can hardly walk." And then the following week, it got worse. I worked another series, and then I was supposed to go to North Dakota with the team the following week, and I told my wife, I'm like, there's no way I can go unless you come with me because I can't walk.
Oof.
And then I fell in the house, and we got in the car, went to Mayo. 24 days later, 24
Oh,
days in the hospital, it was they figured out what was wrong. And the great thing about it, they put me through every test imaginable, every cancer test and every this, that, and the other thing, MRIs, everything. And so everything else came out clean except, for this neurological problem that I have. And it just, my legs are toothpicks. And so, it's just on the road to, getting stronger and trying to get the strength back. And I'm on steroids for the next 12 weeks, and hopefully we'll get some good results and go from there. So I got a good attitude, and this it's kind of weird having a walker, but
yeah.
things could be a lot worse, KG, and I'm thankful that my family's been great, and so we're just knock on wood that there's a good path.
Well, and how much does your hockey background carry you through in situations like this, Mick?
Oh,
Because I look at this as the physical therapy side is probably taking
yeah,
you back to one of the training sessions you had as a youngster, trying to get ready to be an elite player, whether it was at Hibbing or when you're at the
right.
U of M or beyond, right? It does have a unique tie-in.
I'm kind of glad you brought that up because I'm driving my physical therapist crazy. We only get 45-minute sessions, and she wants to put, 5 pounds on my legs. I'm like, 5 pounds? I need more than that. She said, so she's trying to draw me back, and I'm trying to go forward, and so we're battling, and because you want to walk before you run, and sometimes with something like this, you just slow it down and take your time, and that drives me crazy. Because I want to get back to the way it was, and so, but you just got to be patient with this. But yes, it's a driving force, KG. No doubt, that all athletes know that. You want to get back and get better and get back in the lineup or whatever that case may be, and so we're just taking it one day at a time.
What does your medical staff tell you about moving forward here this winter with opportunities to broadcast from different locations, travel? Are there going to be
Yeah.
limitations for the time being?
Well, I tell you what, Matt Hoover very well, who
I
produces
do.
our college games, and terrific guy, and they want as soon as I got back, the U wanted me to work games that weekend, and I said I can't work that. I'm not ready, and then. But we worked it out where I could work the Penn State series, which was 2 weeks ago, and who did a great job of. They knew I couldn't stand doing the broadcast, so they had the monitors. They had me positioned properly, and had a
Oh,
nice chair for me to sit in. And then when we did our opens and our in betweens, I rested my butt on the
yep,
desk there, and as you've done, that how we do it.
yep.
And so they were I can't say enough about Matt Hoover and Jim Rich, just great helping me get through everything, and so I can work the home games. I can't travel yet because my hands are numb also with this thing, and so
Jesus.
my inability to really use my hands to button and unbutton and all that kind of stuff. So that makes it difficult. So I can't travel yet. I set a pipe dream of mid-January, but if not, I'll just do the home games and we'll go from there.
Well, it does sound promising, and I guess
Yeah.
my last question would be is the long-term prognosis is that feeling is going to come back, right? As you recover and as you continue to work through this, is your medical team telling you that the feeling in the hands will come back and there'll
Well,
be at some point a sense of normal?
well, that's, they're pretty optimistic it will. They think the steroids are gonna wake up the nerve, and once you wake up the nerve, then that obviously you gets the muscles going and everything. So they're pretty optimistic, but KG, with this stuff, you never know.
Right.
You never know, but I'm hopeful. I'm working my butt off every day on it, and so we'll just keep going.
Well, and I'm going to keep sending prayers and thoughts and send good vibes your way because, yeah, as I've told you many times, and this is from the heart. The hockey world is so much better when you're in it, and so to hear your voice again, even today, it amps me up. You've just got that energy about you, and your positive attitude. I know will carry you through. You've always had that.
Yeah. Well, we have good people, and none better than yourself in this town, and we have a good group of guys that all support each other and always will, and that's ultimately that's the most important thing, and I appreciate your friendship. So, and by the way, before we get to this, before we get to the wooden stick, I want to give you a shout out because I watch you all the time, and we learn from each other. And I tell you what you do with your interviews in between periods is as good or any better in the league, because I watch games throughout the league, and I know people don't know how difficult of a job that is. 82 games or whatever you guys do, and to come up with questions that are pertinent to what is happening out on the ice, what I am learning from that player. It's just not your old, what'd you think of the period? It's just great stuff, and it's a tough job, and what you do is fabulous work. And that's just my 2 cents. We can move on.
I got to have you on more often, Mick. You are good for the soul.
Honestly, I mean that, because I listen and I try to mimic some of your stuff when I'm interviewing people, and it's it's not an easy job, and it's you can be in it for 20, 25 years, and you never stop learning. I tell young broadcasters that all the time.
True.
You never stop. The minute you think you've got it, you might as well get out of the game.
Yeah, you're right about that. There's never a day where I don't learn something new around these coaches, around these players. And
right.
So I have a ton of college hockey I want to get to on the back half of our conversation.
Go.
But I want to start with your thoughts on this incredible turnaround by the Wild, because I'm going to tell you right now, being with this team in October, they were methodical, they were slow, they weren't defending, the goaltenders weren't up to snuff, and I left the month of October around Halloween thinking this is going to be one hell of a long year. And this is year 20, so I've seen good, I've seen bad, I've seen everything in the middle. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I saw this coming, because I didn't, and I'm in it. But for you on the outside looking in, obviously the goaltending is a huge part of this, but how have they done it in your eyes?
Well, I think I don't think they knew who they were to start the year. I mean, you had some new guys, and you're bringing them in, and sometimes certain teams just get off to a great start, and some teams don't, and so okay, then the other team, they want to keep it going. The other teams got to figure out what they are, who they are, and everything that goes into it. And so, I wasn't like, oh no, the sky is falling, but with knowing that with the leadership that they have, that the friendships that they have in that group, that very well, much better than I, it's a tight knit group, and you also know that John Hines will throw a lot at you, and he wants things done a certain way. And there may have been a little bit of, okay, I'm thinking this through. And you brought it up. They look slow. They look methodical. That may have been, well, maybe they're thinking too much and trying to put everything together of what John Hines wants done. Now, if you watch them play the month of November, And if I'm Edmonton, I don't want to play Minnesota because of the way they play. They're a very detailed team. They don't make mistakes. They're never going to be a high scoring team because of that, because they don't take chances when they don't have to take chances. Now, your Kaprizovs, Boldies, guys like that, Zuccarellos can, because they're elite level high offensive players. They are given the right to take chances. But your other guys, your third and fourth liners, and I want to get to this too. I'm going to jump all over the place here, KG, because that's what I do.
I love it.
But I wanted to bring this up because, having been playing a top six role and also playing a bottom six role, I'm talking about the mentality of a person who is in a top six role compared to a bottom six role. And when you are in a top six role, you are thinking you have that levity and that you have a little extra ability to take those chances, and
Yep.
you are counted on to be an offensive player and a productive player. Now, when you're in a bottom six role, it's not that you can't be contribute offensively, but your job is to not allow the other team to score on you. You are not allowed. You're not going to take those chances offensively where you're going to cause a turnover, which will result in a goal the other way. So your mindset is changed from being, okay, I can't be this complete offensive guy. I've got to be a little offense, but more on the defensive side. And so I look at a guy like Urov, right? He goes from a third line, fourth line, up to the top line. Now, yes, he's playing with better players. He should produce a little bit more. But if you watch the way he's playing when he's with those guys, I'm telling you, it's a different player than he was as a third liner.
Yep.
And just watch what he does. And so that's what I wanted to get off my chest. When you're looking at guys and what their role is and where they fit and what their job responsibility is, it really, it should make sense to a lot of people.
I think Urov is one of those players that if you didn't watch the Wild on a regular basis, I don't think you'd appreciate how good a hockey player he is. But if you watch these guys on a daily basis and watch every game, he is very, very responsible. And he allows Kaprizov and Zuccarello to do things that doesn't put the team in a bad place because
and then he jumps in when he's always back. But he always can read a play to you see him. He's not afraid to get to that front of the net either.
I agree. Totally.
Look where he scored against the Islanders, right? I mean, he's back and then he went in and, he got that puck and, and I don't know who passed it to him. I can't recall. But anyhow, but yes, he's just got that. When you watch him, you just say, yep. He's going to be a guy. He's going to be a player. And maybe he's not ready for the top line role yet. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but he's going to be. I guarantee you he's going to be.
Yeah, we're just scratching the surface. He's super young and just getting comfortable. And again, he is. I look back at where Mikko Koivu was in that first couple of years. I look back at where Joel Eriksson was, and look at how they changed. Yeah. Well, again, I mean, they
took 5 years.
It did, and this kid's going to be that guy. He's going to be a top six guy. He's going to be a guy that's going to be dependent on to produce offense, and he has the skill set to do it. And for now, he's going to play a super valuable role for this hockey team. There is some youth on this roster that is super intriguing. And I know that in general, it's an older roster. But if you look at some of the younger players, and I got to tell you, like this goaltending situation with Jesper Wallstedt, he's 23 years old. Mick, you know this from covering college hockey. There are goalies all over college rosters that are older than this kid. So he's 23. And the more I watch, the more I believe that now these numbers aren't sustainable, but him being a go-to goalie at this level is sustainable. And my goodness, what an embarrassment of riches if that's the case, because I think the Wild already know they've got a great 1A in Gustafson. And you know, as well as I know, the schedule is only going to go up from here. 84 games next year. It's an absolute grind.
Yeah.
If you have two guys you can rely on, that is an asset that this team's going to enjoy for many, many years.
I tweeted something out after the game last night, Kevin. And I said, keep in mind that slumps stop because of good goaltending.
I saw
And,
that.
or to whatever I said, something to that degree, it stops a 1 or 2 game losing streak. It stops it from going to 3, 4, or 5. And, and that is ultimately the key factor. The goaltending for this team, oh my gosh, and these two guys, right? They both want to play and they're both playing great and they're both pushing each other right now. And you know what? I think this was a really good thing for Gustafson because I think automatically he looked in the mirror and said, I got to be ready every game. And I'll take you back to the Four Nations. I'll take you back to the last game of the season last year where he pulled himself in the third period. He pulled himself in the, and I'm not, hey, if he was sick, he was sick. That happens, right? But what I'm saying is that gave him some, okay, I gotta suck it up. I'm gonna be ready every freaking game, and I'm not gonna, a little illness is not gonna stop me from going out and playing another 20 minutes, whatever. And he's playing great too. And so I think them pushing themselves each other is just terrific for this hockey team.
I watched that game last night in Edmonton, and I'm telling you, the way that the wall of St. Paul is playing right now, as we call him,
oh my God,
he's getting in the heads of his opponents. I'm just telling you right now, be nice level last night, watching Edmonton skate back to the bench, specifically in the first half of that game, they were like, oh my goodness,
yeah,
what do we need to do to put the puck behind this guy? And even though the Wild only had a 1-goal lead, I think it felt like 2 or 3. And I thought the Oilers played great. Like I thought the second and third period, they were the better hockey team. But you never apologize for having that guy. And I think that's an asset that got in their heads and really frustrated them as the night went on, Nick. And that was, to me, a big part of the deciding factor.
Yeah, and they're trying to get a 2-game winning streak going. I mean, this is a team that's struggling right now, and they had a nice game in Seattle where they won 4-0. They're feeling good about themselves. You know that they were going to put the push on last night, and he just said, not tonight. It's not going to happen tonight. You've got, I think they have five in a row at home, but it's not going to happen tonight. And he shut them down and it was great to see. I mean, it was great to see.
Billy Guerin, like all general managers, has made dozens upon dozens of decisions. And with social media, the armchair quarterbacks out there are going to have questions here, questions there. But if we just take a look at 2 specific times when he traded up within the draft, Volstead being one, Zeev Boyum being the other. And again, the jury's not out. I mean, they have careers in front of them. But as I sit here right now, Mick, and look at those 2 moves, this isn't even bringing up the whole Faber and Fiala thing, which was brilliant. Those 2 moves alone tell me that not only Bill Guerin, but that team they have around him for draft night had some really good ideas, and it's getting validated by the play of these guys right now.
I tell you, I love Bouillon. He is ridiculously skilled, and his skating ability and his ability to escape, and and just, I mean, when he's rushing the puck or he's in the zone and he just escapes and it's crazy. It's crazy. And yeah, he's got to refine his game a little bit. He's a rookie. I mean, come on.
He's 19.
But he's 19 and there's 25-year-old guys in college. So I love the kid. And you know what, Kevin? And he has that attitude that I don't give a what when I'm out there.
Yep.
And I am cocky, and if you don't like it, tough, because I'm going to bring it. And I love that. And so You know, I think the sky's the limit for that kid in in Wallstead, and I mean it's great to see.
I'm glad you brought on the front end of this conversation, Mick. You brought up an important point: is the leadership, the friendships in the locker room, and the tone
Yep.
that's sent by this group. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the two young guys we're talking about are the two most humble, down-to-earth guys you ever wanted to see. And if you watch them on the ice, and you mentioned the swagger that Zeev has, I would
Yep.
mention that for a goalie, Jesper's got a ton of swagger in that celebration.
Oh, yeah,
There's a cockiness to their play that I think you need to be an elite athlete. But if you,
You
get
better
these
be. You
guys
better
off
have
the
it.
ice, they
Yep.
are the most team-oriented, down-to-earth, push the praise somewhere else guys I've ever covered. And they're kids. And they've never been exposed to this kind of media tension or pressure. And, I mean, everything around that Edmonton game last night in that market, they were talking on sports radio, all the television stations about the draft that Edmonton let him get away. And
Yeah.
there was a ton of pressure on him, right? And Zeev faces
Right.
that everywhere he goes. And these guys have a way of channeling it where off the ice, they are as honest to God, as fun-loving, and as cool to be around as I've ever seen in a young player. But somehow something switches when they get on the ice, and I love it. I love
Yeah.
that swagger they bring.
Have you ever seen a passive guy have a great career? I don't think so.
No
I
way.
mean, I've played with a couple. I mean, I remember, you remember that. I don't know if you remember this guy. He was a great golfer, Todd Bergen, Philadelphia draft pick. Louis traded for him.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
he and I are playing together. He's about 6'3", 215, shoot like the wind, skate like the wind, didn't have a care in the world. Could have been as good as Mario Lemieux. And I'm not kidding with his skill set. But he had no care factor. Then he
Yeah.
got out of the game in 2 years. He wanted to go to the golf course and play. Okay, whatever. But it was ridiculous skill, and but that's how some people are wired, I guess.
Let's close the NHL conversation with this question. I can't wait to hear your answer because there's no mystery that Minnesota's in the market for a right-handed shot on the power
Yep.
play. It would
Yep.
change completely what that top unit can do. And they've kind of gone cold here after a hot start. So the Buffalo Sabres are who we thought they were going to be. They're likely not a playoff team, even in an Eastern Conference that looks like it's going to be wide open. I think they're going to be on the outside looking in. So I've got two guys that Bill Guerin certainly has on his radar. We're not breaking any news here. It's just kind of fun speculation. I got a 28-year-old who's 6'6". He's on a contract that takes him through 2030. It's an unbelievable contract, by the way. He's making $7.1 million. His name is Tage Thompson. He's an elite scorer. He's an elite power play guy. He's a hell of a hockey player. He's a right-handed shot. The other guy, ironically, is on his team. So Tage is 28. The 29-year-old is 6'4". His contract only goes through the end of this year. He's making 4.7. Good number. Alex Tuck, a guy we drafted, by the way, in the first round back in the day.
Yep.
Tuck is a right-handed shot. Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck. You're going to have to give up a hell of a lot more to get Tage Thompson. And then there's no way of knowing if Buffalo would even do it. But if you're sitting in Bill Guerin's office right now and you're one of his advisors, which direction do you go?
I go Tage Thompson, and I'll tell you why. I've watched Alex Tuck lately, and it just, to me, I mean, he skates like when he's got, I think his game has gone down a little bit, and I think Thompson is just peaking in his term. He in the last couple of years, if you look at his numbers, they keep going up, they keep getting better. His confidence keeps going up. He's taken on that leadership role there. I would go for Tage Thompson. I just think when I watch him play, there's a little bit more there than there is with Tuck right now. And Tuck's going to want a lot of money. His contract's coming up, and so they, I think they'd move Tuck before they move Thompson because I don't think they're going to reach the number that Tuck wants, and I don't know if many teams will pay it, but we'll see. But I just think Tage Thompson would bring. I think he's got a little bit more name factor too, and I know the name factor, right? But sometimes when teams see, whoa, Minnesota getting Thompson with what they got with Boldy, Eck, Zuccarello, Kaprizov, That's a hell of a top six. And how are you going to stop that power play? Compared to an Alex Tuck who, has been around a little bit longer, I think, right?
Yep.
Maybe not. But so anyway, that kind of plays into it. But you know what, KG? I'm just hoping that Billy, if he wants something, that he goes out and gets it and is not afraid to say, yeah, we're gonna have to get rid of. They're not going to get rid of Hartman or we could name a bunch of different guys, right? But
Yeah.
you're not going to. But you got to give up something to get something. We know that. Now, maybe you can splice some draft picks in there and get some team to buy that. But I hope he's saying, oh, yeah, I got to pull the trigger on this, and it's going to make our team better.
Yeah, I was baffled by the contract because I looked at Matt Boldy's deal now, and it's unbelievable. Like what this guy's making and what he's producing.
How about X? How about X contract?
X deal also very team friendly. And then I look at Tage Thompson's making less than $8 million a year. He's locked up till 2030.
Oh my gosh,
he's an elite.
That's a steal.
Elite goal scorer. So yeah, I don't know if Buffalo is going to part ways with him. I know he's on the radar of Wild fans, and I wanted to get your opinion. But now we segue to college hockey here in the final 10 to 15 minutes, and I have to always try to get caught up, and I follow as best I can during the NHL season. But I looked at the pairwise rankings, and in the top 5, I see North Dakota, Michigan, Mike Hastings' club, Wisconsin. Not a real big surprise to me. UMD, I knew Sandlin was sitting on a good year. I see Minnesota State kind of lurking there at 7. Now I see Dartmouth at number 1, and they've only played 8 games. They're 8-0, and I know that a lot of times the pairwise doesn't tell the whole story, so that catches me off guard. And then I see my beloved Tommies under Rico Blasi hanging in there at 26, and then I see your beloved Golden Gophers at 36. So I have to ask you, of the grouping of teams I just talked about, the Dartmouths, the Minnesotas, and maybe throughout the landscape of college hockey, what's the biggest story or the biggest surprise here as we get ready for the Christmas break?
Oh boy, I'm going to tell you this right now. The CCHA is a very, very undervalued league. There are 6 teams in that conference that could win the league, and it is that tight. And I will tell you one thing also about the CCHA this year. There is more skill in that league. It's a different league than it was in years past. They got a bunch of guys from the with the new rule with the CHL players, Canadian players having the opportunity to come to college, the older players, and that league is I'm telling you, it is really, really good, really, really tight. Our good friend who will rename name nameless. And I think I know who I'm talking about. Thinks it's the worst league in the world, and they should just shut it down. But that's for another day. And I have to keep telling them it is not. But that being said, that has surprised me a little bit this season with how good that league is. Penn State getting the potential number 1 pick in the draft blew me away. And I think Penn State, even though the Gophers did split with them, I think the McKenna kid, only 17 years old, is going to be a player. Now he's getting a lot of heat because he's not putting up bigger numbers, that he's not scoring 10 goals a game. But the skill set on the kid is off the charts. He's got to get bigger, stronger, all that. And so I think Penn State is really a team to watch this year. But overall, KG, and I know when you covered the Gophers and college hockey quite a bit, I don't look at these teams and really give you a good synopsis of them until end of January. You know why? Because then have they found their game? Have they found a way to win? Have they bought into what these coaches are preaching for them to win? And we're talking younger players here, and it takes a little bit of time. So I'll take Minnesota, for example. They have 5 forwards that are freshmen that play in their top 9. Okay. And
Wow.
so, you know, you're asking them to produce. You're asking them to, and they're playing against older players to, handle that physical grind and, understand what it takes to play every night. So are they going to mature? Now they beat Denver, who's arguably one of the best teams in college hockey. They split with Penn State, and so those two teams are in the top 4 or 5 in the country. And so are they going to continue to mature and be a factor? I'll tell you that in the end of January. But Michigan is awfully good. The teams you mentioned up top, awfully good. North Dakota is a new team this year. They brought in a bunch of guys, and they got a couple guys that are going to go in the first round. So last year I said, KG, I said there's about 10 teams that could win the national title. Well, you can double that this year and even go up to 25 teams, because I couldn't tell you right now who's going to win it, because they're all that tight, and which makes it great for the game.
It's funny because Penn State and Michigan State were the two real popular picks before the season started. And they may circle back and be Frozen Four contenders.
No doubt.
As I look at the pairwise right now, they're on the outside looking in for a 1 seed, and that tends to surprise me. Is there a reason for that? Is the Big Ten just a deeper conference?
Well, you have these. You accumulate points playing non-conference games, and you lose one of them, to a team like a Dartmouth. Dartmouth is a bad example, but to a team in the CCHA, for example. If you lose to them, well, they pick up all those points. You don't get any of the points, and that's a factor when it determines all these pairwise points. From what I understand, I'm not big on the pairwise. Never have been, but so. You pick up a lot of points early. Now, when it gets to January, you're playing teams that are in your own conference, and the Big Ten usually has teams that are higher in the pairwise. And so, when you win, you get points. You pick up points in the CCHA, for example. They're lower, and you're not picking up any points, so you kind of hang where you are. So these lower teams in different conferences better pick up points early and hang around and try to get in the top 16. So that's how it kind of plays out, if that makes any sense.
So let's go to Michigan State's roster. I know that Wild fans love hearing these updates. Charlie Stramel has played 14 games. He's got 17 points. It looks like a player that year by year, after a really tough start at Wisconsin, has found something. What are you hearing? And maybe in the limited time you've watched the highlights and connected, what have you seen?
What if I shock you by saying this? What if I shock you by saying he may get a few games at the end of the season, and we'll see where that, well, depending on how far they go. But he is a stud. He is big. He is a beast. He wins draws. And I'm telling you, and you want to talk about a kid who just needed to find his way, taking nothing away from his time at Wisconsin. He just wasn't mature enough. He gets to Michigan State, and he gets reunited with his former coach in the U.S. National Development Program in Nightingale, and they had that good rapport, and he got him going. And I'm telling you, he's one of the best players in college hockey. And I kid you not.
I'll tell you what, that's exciting to hear. When I hear faceoffs and I see a 6'3", 215-pound frame that's producing at that level, Mick, hearing this from you excites me.
Yeah, and he's a beast, KG. He's not, and I mean, you don't want to get in his way. I'm telling you, you don't. And he's not afraid. And he moves pretty well. And I think the Wild fans are going to say, oh, that's the guy we drafted a few years back at number one, and we all ripped to shreds because he
Right.
had two. I mean, give these guys a chance. It drives me crazy. But he's a stud. He is a freaking stud. And so I can't wait to see him in the pros.
Okay, so now the prognosis for Minnesota. And listen, I get it. Bob Motzko said it all summer long. I had a chance to listen to him when he was on with Paul Allen, our dear friend, at the State Fair, and he said, you know what, first half of the year could be a struggle. We're going to try to get to the Christmas break and build something, and second half of the year, we're going to be more the team I think we can be. So is there reason to panic? Is there reason for optimism? Because it feels like, again, for me, from the outside looking in, that they're starting to play some good hockey.
They found a goalie in Luca DePasquo, who, by the way, was the backup to Trey Augustine at Michigan State a year ago.
Oh, of course.
And Augustine didn't sign, so he went in the portal, and Bob grabbed him. And talking to Nightingale in the games that DePasquo played, he said, I got a guy here I can't play, because of Trey Augustine. I got the best goalie in the world in college hockey. And so I think they parted on good terms. And, he stopped 55 shots against Denver the other night and was just absolutely terrific. So I think they found a goalie in him. And ultimately, as you know, you ain't going anywhere without goaltending.
Yep.
Period. Stop. And so, I in Minnesota, and I don't make excuses for them. I don't. And Bob will be the first to tell you that because we argue about it. But they open their season with Duluth, North Dakota, Boston College, Penn State. It was a juggernaut of they opened with Michigan Tech, who's awfully good, who's in the CCHA, and they split with them. And to open with the number of young guys that they had. And the one thing they're really missing this year, Luke Middlestead's been absolutely phenomenal. He's trying to produce offensively a little bit. He's not an offensive guy, but but he gets points. But they don't have the Brock Faber, the Jackson Lacombe, the Craig Johnson, his son. And so they don't have that offensive defenseman that they really need back there. And so they have to play a little differently. They have to win a little differently, and they have to grow up a little bit. And they have to get more mature. I think they've done that. Will it can carry into the second half? We'll see. But as long as they get the good goaltending, I think it's going to be helpful for them.
Yeah, huge win against Denver. That is a confidence booster when you can beat a team like Denver, who was rolling at that time in the top five, all that good stuff. All right, Mick, finally, as we let you kind of wrap things up here, what are some of your broadcasting assignments here in December before we get to the aforementioned break for the holidays?
Well, unfortunately, I was supposed to be on the flight to Ohio State, which I can't be. So I'm actually off until January. The Gophers don't play. And in fact, I think after this weekend, all teams are going on break, or the following week. Some teams might play next week, but then they're off until the end of December with the Christmas tournaments. But because of the World Junior Tournament, a lot of the guys are going to be gone. Obviously from these teams, so they're on break, and which is good for me because I can get my health back a little bit, and so I'll be just be doing Beyond the Pond, of which you will be a guest. We'll line you up very soon, and always look forward to that. And so I get the month off and get ready for January.
Well, yeah, that's a great way to close this conversation, because for all of us hockey-loving rubes, Beyond the Pond is appointment listening, and I had a chance to listen. It's every single Saturday in the winter on KFAN at KFAN.com, 100.3 if you are in the Twin Cities, which a lot of our listeners here on Wooden Sticks are. And just a heartwarming conversation last week, hearing you and Mr. Mayasich in the studio with Kevin Fallness. That had to be, for you, a guy that bleeds maroon and gold, a pretty special hour. Incredible.
93 years old, sharper in attack, sharper than I was. I mean, he had to correct Fallness a couple of times. He called him Mariucci once. He said, "Why you call me Mariucci? I'm Mayasich." And Kevin was like, he turned beet red. I mean, you can't make it up. But yeah, and he wrote a book, and that was part of the reason we had him in also. And he signed a book for me, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I'm getting a book signed by He didn't bring one for Kevin. He just brought one for me." And it was great. And I told him this story, Kevin, and I've never told him. I've told other people, but somehow I got to be second behind him, right? And it was like, okay, whatever. But that's neither here nor there. But I did tell him this. I said, if I would have got close to him, there was no way I was going to surpass him. I have that much love and respect and admiration for the guy because he's such a wonderful person. I would never have wanted to jump ahead of him unless it was the Final Four, because it was the Final Four when we played, right?
Right.
KG, you know that.
I remember.
And we needed a goal to win it. That would have put me over. But that's it. And he was like, no way. I'm like, yeah, no chance. But it was a great conversation. Learned a lot from him. Great stories, and and then he told me that we're related somehow, and he wanted me to look it up. I'm like, I'm not, so somehow I guess he and I are related somehow. I have no idea how, but then I told him, well, obviously that's where I got my, little, finesse around the net from you. So we got a chuckle out of that, but it was just wonderful to be with him, so it was great.
Well, I enjoyed the conversation, and you can say that now looking back, but the train that you were riding and basically running, you were the locomotive. You had 4 great years for the Gophers, but your last 2 years, Mick, you had 176 points. You had 48 goals in your junior year. You can say you were going to slow down. I don't know how you would have slowed yourself down.
Yeah.
That's an incredible pace. When you look at 176 points, you guys were playing roughly 40 games a year. So that's 80 games. That means at that level, you're averaging over 2 points a night. I watched, and I know how good college hockey was in that era in the mid 80s. That's incredible.
Well, you know what? He brought something up to me, and it made me think, and it's not that I've forgotten. It's never I thought differently, but he said, you know what? We didn't get anywhere without our teammates, and I'm like, you damn right. My God, I learned from Butsy Erickson, the Bukes, Scott Bukestead, Dave Jensen, all those guys, the 80 Olympic guys who we're all good friends with, right? Watching them, and and those were quasi teammates just from watching them and wanting to be like them, and I think Neil Broughton was the best center, and after John Mayasich at Minnesota, but Rick Erdahl, right from Washburn, who you know of, magic with the puck. He was my centerman.
Hands.
I mean, oh my God, he fed me like a baby, right? Wally Chapman, another, he was the horse on our line.
Wally's a good dude. I still bump into him now and then.
And so you have guys like that just were they made you, and so that's what you can never ever forget. You never ever do it alone.
Well, Mick, you're not going to be alone in this great fight as you work your way back to better health. We're all going to be thinking of you. We're all going to be sending great vibes and sending prayers your way. And God bless you at the holidays here. Can't wait to reconnect with you probably in January as we kind of go month by month.
You're going to be on in the next 2 weeks. So
I can't wait.
So
we'll keep the good conversations going.
Yeah, and you need to get on Fallness when you're on too.
Yeah, that Fallness, he's a handful. I tell you, he's a real piece of work. But we do get a kick out of Kev.
Yeah, we do.
That's the great Pat Micheletti right here on Wooden Sticks. I'll be back after a quick break, and we'll put a close to this week's edition of the show. Well, Mick and I have to find a way to end the conversation because we both can get on a run, and especially when we're talking with each other, that sucker can go on for hours. So we tried to keep it to 45 minutes. We came close today. I just love his passion that he has for hockey. It's whether we're talking on the phone, whether we're texting during games, or whether we're doing a a podcast like today, it's the real deal. That's who he is, and truthfully, if you can and throw a couple prayers up his way, some good thoughts to help send some positive vibes as he continues to battle through this strange and really dangerous health scare he's going through. He's got the right attitude, and because he's an incredible person, an incredible human being, and also a former star athlete, he'll find a way, I think, to grind his way through this. But you can tell from talking to him, he's captain positive, that there still are some hurdles to overcome, and so we'll continue to monitor that and to pull for him and to hopefully hear some good news later this hockey season from Pat Micheletti. We'll continue to update you on everything pertinent in the game, and we'll look forward to having some fun guests on here. High school hockey's in full swing. I'm also going to start my coverage of the Minnesota Frost here later this month. Looking forward to that. I think my first game is actually coming up in a week or so here, and they're off to a great start. The two-time defending champions, the Minnesota Frost. So a lot to talk about. College hockey in full swing, even though we're going to have a little holiday break here, and obviously my main gig out on the road with the Minnesota Wild. There'll be all kinds of good updates and information. And continue to follow me on social media at Gorgomatic21. At Gorgomatic21. Also, if you want, put in a request. I've had some good ones here lately. I've been writing those down and making some connections to make sure if you've got somebody you want to hear from in the world of hockey, I can try to make that happen for you right here on the show. Thanks for listening, and we'll keep the Wild rolling on this road trip and hopefully connect with you again next week right here on Wooden Street.